SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Business owners know that a little bit of stress can be helpful. It sharpens the mind and gets you moving. But when it lingers, stress can have a terrible effect on the mind and the body. Employment engagement specialist and coach Esther De La Cruz says a balance can be found. In conversation with Jeff Waters, Esther explains the brain chemistry and impacts of stress and how to reduce them.
Stress helps us get laser focused about something we need to do, something we need to perform. For example, just before you go on stage for a presentation, you get a surge of cortisol. You get a bit of a stress response because you're about to perform. And that is not necessarily a bad thing because it heightens our ability to focus on the skills that we need in that moment. In that moment, we don't need to be preparing a meal. We don't need to be doing a gym workout. We need to focus on us delivering a wonderful keynote and presentation to our audience. So narrowing in and zooming in on that task at hand is what stress does, because it really focuses our attention on our performance in that moment. What it also does is it has an impact on our immune system and it shuts down certain functions in our body because it is actually really helping us focus on those primary needs we have in the moment, such as back in the day when we were trying to run away from danger. But when it flips towards not being so helpful is when we are in prolonged periods of stress. And I've seen this a lot in business where, for example, changes are being introduced, but they are taking a long time to land. And people are for a long time in limbo and uncertainty. And so they have that stress response because they know something's going to happen. They make up negative stories in their minds about what that might be. It causes the stress to increase. And then they sit in that stress for a prolonged period of time, which means their immune system is impacted. They might become more sick. But what also happens is our brain is less likely to collaborate with others, to be open-minded to new information. It will be more closed off, not as creative, not as inquisitive. And so being in prolonged periods of stress can really have a detrimental impact on not just productivity, on innovation, but also on a person's health and what they then bring home into their personal lives as well and how to respond to the people around them.
But Esther, so very many of us are under stress at the moment, particularly in SMEs because of costs, because of finances, effectively, and the difficulties they're in. How can you stop this from being a long-term issue?
Yeah, it is incredibly volatile time and challenging time for small business, but I'm even seeing it in bigger businesses as well, where leaders are under a lot of pressure. And this pressure is, of course, impacting us externally. It's coming from external. So what we need to try and do as individuals is navigate how we can manage our stress levels from an internal perspective. And what I'm learning more and more about through neuroscience is the connection of the mind and the body. And so we talk about meditation being healthy for us, sports and exercise being healthy for us, and our nutrition having something to do with how we curb our stress levels. All of those things are true. And all of those things are strategies to reduce your stress levels. A mindset part of it can also be talking it out with someone. You know, what is it exactly that you're worried the most about? And how much control do you have over that? Maybe navigating towards those things you have more control over. Like, how do you fill in your time in the moment? How do you approach your day in the moment? Even though those risks are looming potentially, what can you do today to focus on something you do have control over? That's kind of a shift in mindset, and it could calm the nerves. But cortisol in general is a stress response that is in our body that we can curb by introducing more happy chemicals. So that means making sure we are surrounded by people we love, making sure we have those conversations and let out our frustrations, and definitely move our bodies to generate those happy chemicals, to set off those, to offset, I should say, the stress response. So there are strategies we can take to both help our mind as well as our body reduce those stress levels on an individual level.
When you say move our bodies, are you talking about exercise?
It can be exercise, but it can literally be as simple as moving your body to a tune, going for a walk, swinging your arms around, or stretching. It is literally just making sure the blood flows, making sure you get that stifledness that we can feel from stress, that we feel frozen in stress. Loosen it, because it generates happy chemicals in our bodies that immediately reduces stress levels. Another thing I've come across through neuroscientists is the fact that if we focus on the things that we are really grateful for example, our family is healthy, we have a roof over our heads, we have a warm cooked meal every day, the little simple things, or the fact that we've got these awesome runners and our run is so much more pleasant on those runners. It can be the simplest of things. If we are in a moment of gratitude, we can actually not feel stress. It's not possible to have those emotions at the same time. As we are in that state of gratitude, we won't have that cortisol affecting us. And so the longer we stay in gratitude, the more we offset our stress response. I also understood recently that after you come out of an exercise routine, for example, you've done a run or you've been to the gym, there's obviously a lot of endorphins and things which are considered happy chemicals and offset, even though it comes from the fact that you're hurting your body. It's a response to that. But the fact that
Some of us more than others.
Exactly. So some might get way more endorphins than others. But we all get endorphins, and the endorphins do offset cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so right after a gym workout, you might notice you don't feel as stressed in that moment. It might quickly pick up again because you might start to think about all the negative implications of what you're facing into. But in that moment, right after your exercise, you feel a lot better. So it's finding those moments probably more and finding those strategies more regularly throughout your day to reduce and offset that stress.
What do you think of mindfulness meditation, or is that a bit too woo-woo?
No, not at all. I don't think anything is too woo-woo. Some things work for some people more than others, right? We're all different. And I have to admit, I'm trying meditation all the time, almost daily, and I'm not the best at it. Even this morning it was only 3 minutes, and those 3 minutes were not 100% clear of thoughts. So I'm not the best at it, but I know some things work for some people versus others. But what mindfulness meditation has proven to do is to bring a calmness and bring out some happy chemicals from that stillness, from that clearing our minds from negative thoughts that may even be perceived as a moment of gratitude that does actually positively impact us to offset stress.
That's Esther De La Cruz, change expert and employee engagement specialist. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel.